tapta jivanam kavibhiriritam kalmashapaham Sravanamangalam Srimadaatatam Bhuvi Grananti Ye Bhurida Jana. So we are almost in the last section of the chapter, the Master's birthday celebration at Dakshineshwar. So we'll find that Sri Ramakrishna is conversing with the Brahmo devotees. Master, it is not good for a devotee to play such parts. It is bad for the mind to dwell on such subjects for a long while. The mind is like white linen fresh from the laundry. It takes the color in which you dip it. If it is associated with falsehood for a long time, it will be stained with falsehood. As in the English, the proverb goes, as you think, so you become. So it is the mind which actually determines our character. If we are always keeping our mind in association with evil thoughts, with evil company. Sometimes in the present day of the internet, sometimes we think that the internet is there for innocent engagement. And we are constantly dwelling in so many type of distractions, thinking that after all it has nothing to do with the integrity of my personality. But know it for certain, the more the mind dwells in all those distractions, it do have a very, very adverse effect in our mind. So that's the very pertinent, very, very simple truth which Sri Ramakrishna is speaking of. We will find even the last message, Sri Holy Mother, before she passed away. She was in her deathbed when a devotee came, and her instructions, the last words were very, very significant. What she told is, well, my child, if you want to find peace, do not find fault with others. Try to see your own faults. Try to make the whole world your own. No one is a stranger, my child. The world is your own. So here also we find that Mother is saying that never find fault with others. This is the thing, that the more we dwell in the negativities of the others, it starts affecting me. It starts affecting us. You will find that those who censors a lot constantly are gossiping about others' all those short findings. They're just the negativities. They're always constantly gossiping about the things. You will find this person himself or herself gets tainted with all those negativities, and they start finding reflection in his character. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that even in a play, that if you are a devotee, that if someone says, then the movies won't be there, there are so many characters, the villain characters is there. But very important, everyone doesn't want to be a devotee. This word is very important, that if you want to be a devotee, that you have chosen this way of life. He is not censoring all. There are many who are happy with the day-to-day ways of life. Sri Ramakrishna has nothing to say to them. He is saying this to the one who has taken the resolve of leading a spiritual life. They should be cautious, because you have already resorted to this. So now this will be something called dvicharita, hypocrisy. So now if you are resorting to spirituality, then you should be sincere about your spiritual practice and should be always aware that the mind is the only thing which is going to take me to the highest rung of spiritual evolution. So to keep it clean, to cleanse the mind throughout the day in all my activities should be the only goal. And for that, Sri Ramakrishna is indicating that you shouldn't dwell on the negativities. We will find in the gospel in the very beginning, one day it so happened that there was some conversation going on between Naren, the future Vivekananda, and Master Mahashaya, the one who has compiled the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Mahendranath. And now Mahendranath was senior. He was quite senior. He was the teacher of his school, and Narendranath was still a student of the college. And the conversation started between them. It was in the veranda outside Sri Ramakrishna's room. And Naren started saying that nowadays the boys are developing so many bad traits. I have seen someone making friendship with the person who are not of very good character. So in these lines, Naren started speaking and Master Mahendranath was just listening. And suddenly Sri Ramakrishna came there and he asked that what are you talking about? And when he came to know that Naren was speaking about the waywardness of the young generation, immediately Sri Ramakrishna scolded Master Mahashaya, Mahendranath, that you are the senior. You are the senior here. You should have immediately stopped him to discuss on all those things. So when we are speaking of the negativities, two things happen. First, that ego, even unknowingly, we are actually harboring our ego. When we start saying that he is a bad person, this is the way the world is going, somehow subconsciously and holier than thou attitude develops. Oh, I am good. The world is bad. That's one thing. And the second thing, that even without my knowledge, my mind is getting tainted. Those negativities on which I am dwelling, that will become my character. But what I think, that I become. So another day, I went to Keshav's house to see the play called Nimai Sannyasa. Some flattering disciples of Keshav spoiled the whole performance. One of them said to Keshav, "You are the Chaitanya of Kali Yuga." Keshav pointed to me and asked with a smile, "Then who is he?" I replied, "Why, I am the servant of your servant. I am a speck of the dust of your feet." Keshav had a desire for name and fame. So in spiritual life, this is another very important thing. Just now we were saying that just see, after speaking about not to find faults, not to dwell in negativity, Sri Ramakrishna next is saying about humility. That you should be very humble. In spirit, the moment I start thinking that I am something, immediately you will find it is the ego which is working. After all, the entire spiritual journey is nothing but the annihilation of the ego. The idea that I am this limited body-mind complex, the entire personality is limited within this psychophysical existence, is the cause of our bondage. As when someone came to Sri Ramakrishna and asked him, "Sir, when shall I be free?" Sri Ramakrishna's immediate reply was, "When I cease to be." This I, that cease to be. So this ego is the only barrier in our spiritual journey. The moment we develop the faculty of gradually dissolving the ego, the more and more we start evolving in spirituality. So here, that's why we find Sri Ramakrishna says, "I am the servant of the servant." This makes us remember of Swami Premananda, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Much after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, when the organization has just formed, the Ramakrishna mission has just formed, and the novices have started joining, many brahmacharis have started joining. And one day the discussion was going on, the great personalities like Swami Vivekananda, Swami Brahmananda, And this disciple started saying, oh, they are great. Can we ever be as great as them? And Swami Premananda's reply was wonderful. He told, never try to be as great as them. Don't try to be something. Just become nothing, so that Sri Ramakrishna can work through you. Just dissolve your ego. Develop a sense of self-surrender. Always have the idea that it is the master who is working through you. That example which we give again and again, that why we suffer in life, it is always because of the ego. The mother loves the child. It's very obvious, very natural. But we will find a sort of expectation grows. What's that? I have looked after you. You even don't know, as a child, for so many years, how much hardships we have to go through. And now you have grown up. Can you not even speak nicely to me? That little expectation that the child should speak nicely to you. And if he doesn't, it hurts. Why? I'm not saying that we shouldn't encourage the children to nice speak. It's not that why we feel hurt. That's the important. Why? Some expectation has grown. That why? That I have done so much. Can I not expect this much? One thing we forget. What has happened? That as a mother, I am helpless. God has created me in such a way. He has implanted that love in me, that the moment the child is, the mother is bound to love. Even in the entire creation, you see, even an animal. When I have seen a very nice video in the National Geographic channel, that a fawn, a small deer, was swimming across the river, was just about swimming, and the fawn has never noticed that a crocodile was charging, was about to go and devour the fawn. The mother deer was a bit far away. She came very fast. Swimming in between the fawn and the crocodile, and allowed the crocodile to devour her. And in the last breath, her with that eyes, there was no fear. That eyes were full of concern. She was just seeing whether the fawn has gone quite far away, so that the fawn is protected. The mother is ready to give away her life for the fawn. So in the animal kingdom, everywhere you find that the mother has some unselfish love for the children, unconditional love. Even a few days back in some interfaith meet, someone discussed that you speak of unconditional love. Do we see any unconditional love in this world, in the present world? All these words are such big words. And then I still remember one of the faith leaders, immediately how nicely he reacted. He told, you yourself are the product of unconditional love, and you are doubting unconditional love. How come? Well, as a child, when you were helpless, you have no capacity even to have your own food, to protect yourself. What has saved you? What has enabled you to grow? Unconditional love, nothing else. The mother's unconditional love has enabled you to sustain yourself, to grow. Who is there can deny that fact? I have nothing to give to my mother. No one had. But just see the God's creation. God has implanted that love in the mother's heart to take care of his creation. Mother is bound to do that. If the mother always knows this, that I am just an instrument in the hand of the divine. It is a God who has implanted the love in my heart to take care of his creation. I am just a mere instrument. Then what happens? You will find, if we are always aware of that fact, that I am an instrument in the hand of the divine. It is his love working through me. When I see a beggar and feel like giving a few coins, if I have that ego, oh, I am sympathetic, I immediately forget one thing, that the love which generated in my heart, the compassion that came in my heart, is it something which I have developed? Very interesting. If you will know that seeing the poor, the wretched, somehow that love evolves. Nowadays, In evolutionary psychology, they speak of an altruistic genes, that our genes are altruistic. It's not selfish. It somehow feels for the others. It is ingrained in us. So if you are always aware of that, then the question of the ego doesn't come. It is a God who is working through me. And then you become the perfect instrument in the hand of the divine. You become a divine worker. You do your duty without any expectation, always knowing God is working through me. And you surrender everything to God. If He is working through me, where is the question of expecting results? I am just an instrument. As Swami Ramakrishna, Shashi Maharaj, used to say very nicely that when someone told him that you work so much, so many centers in the south you have started, it is inhuman work you are doing. And Shashi Maharaj's reply was, I am a pen in the hand of Sri Ramakrishna. A pen writes many books, an author writes many books. Does the pen can ever claim that he is the one who has written the book? He is the author who is writing. I am just a pen in the hand of the divine. So in this life, the paradigm speaks a lot. How you are looking at the life, that speaks of our peace, that speaks of our bliss, and that again speaks of our suffering. If we don't have the proper paradigm, we are bound to suffer. Know it for certain, in this life, the circumstances are something fixed. In 100 out of 100 circumstances, you will find only 1 or 2 circumstances are such where you have control over it. You can somehow change it. Most of the cases we will find circumstances are beyond our control. And we have to change our attitude, have a proper paradigm to face the challenges of life, where the problems doesn't go away. But with the changed paradigm, I can transcend the conflicts of life and be above it. They cannot touch me. So this is the idea, to always develop the sense that I am an instrument in the hand of the divine. And then only the divine is always trying to work through us. But He even fails to work through us. In the words of Sri Ramakrishna, God's grace is unconditional. It is always flowing. But it gets obstructed with the wall of ego. It's flowing. And when the wind is blowing, if there is a wall, the wind gets obstructed. Sri Ramakrishna is saying, God's bliss is unconditional. It is there for all. It is blowing like the wind. But our ego is like a wall which doesn't allow the grace to find expression through our life. What a wonderful way he's saying. So if we can really annihilate our ego, then only we become a spiritually illumined person. Then only you can become an avatar. An avatar is a person in whom the ego has been totally annihilated. And that's why what is finding expression through him is God and God alone. God has descended through that person. He came down because the ego is not working. It is He who is working through that. It reminds me of a very nice episode in the life of Radha Krishna. One day Radha just playfully told Krishna, "Oh, your flute, which is either in your hand or which you have tucked in the girdle of this loin cloth, it is always with you. It's never ever gets detached from you. How fortunate that flute is. We get your company only for short a while. And then it's viraha. Again and again we have to be separated from you. But that flute is so fortunate. It is always with you." And then Krishna, what he did in reply, he took the flute and showed it to Radha. Said, "You just see the flute? What is there inside?" Radha said, "It's hollow. Nothing else is there. It is hollow." And that's the answer was for Sri Krishna, that if you also can become hollow, then you can become the flute in the hand of the divine. It is always in companion with the divine. Then the music starts playing through your life. It is a Krishna who will play that flute. It It's God's music finds expression through our life. Our lives changes. So if you feel that I am as great as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, know for certain, you are deluded. It's the ego which is working. A really spiritually illumined soul doesn't know that he is great. The greatness is something spontaneous. As the ego has dissolved, the goodness has become a spontaneity. The divine finds expression through him, even without his knowing. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna's words say. When Keshav was saying, what? Keshav, this another day I went to Keshav's house. Now you will find this discussion, that what Sri Ramakrishna is saying, that why we consider Ramakrishna as avatar. Because the total, that ego was annihilated. It was the divine which was finding expression through his life. There was no such assumptions that I am great. Another day I went to Keshav's house to see the play called Nimai Sannyasa. Some flattering disciples of Keshav spoiled the whole performance. One of them said to Keshav, "You are the Chaitanya of the Kali Yuga." Keshav pointed to me and asked with a smile, "Then who is he?" I replied, "Why, I am the servant of your servant. I am a speck of the dust of your feet." Keshav had a desire for name and fame. To Amrita and Trailokya, youngsters like Narendra and Rakhal are ever perfect. Every time they are born, they are devoted to God. An ordinary man acquires a little devotion after austerities and hard struggle. But these boys have a love of God from the very moment of their birth. They are like the natural image of Shiva, which springs forth from the earth and is not set up by human hands. So, there are certain souls who are ever perfect, Nitya Siddha. They never come into the domain of ignorance. Then why are they born if they never come to the domain of ignorance? It is the ignorance which makes us identified with the psychophysical existence, and which as if gravitates us down to this physical plane of existence. If that attachment is not there, there is no such a reason for taking birth. If they are pure and perfect from the very birth, why they are born? So in the scriptures they speak of this great soul who as such have no selfish purpose for taking birth. But it is just because of that unconditional love for the humanity, seeing the suffering of the humanity. This unconditional love is the desire which helps them to gravitate down to this physical plane of existence. If you recollect this wonderful story of Sri Ramakrishna, that three friends were just walking down the street. Three friends were walking down the street. And they saw a very huge wall, a tall wall, a very high wall by the side of the road. And they were curious to know what's there on the other side of the wall. So they searched and managed to get a ladder. So the ladder was reclined against the wall, and one of these three friends climbed up the ladder to see what's there on the other side of the wall. When he went to the top, he was so ecstatic. He was laughing. He was full of ecstasy. His face was flushing. And these friends were asking, "What do you see? Please say." But he was so absorbed with what he was saying, he couldn't even reply that what he was seeing. And then he couldn't control himself. He jumped to the other side. Now these two friends, they were really curious that what has happened to our friend? What's the thing that really made him so ecstatic? And that at last it made him jump to the other side. So the second friend also got up to see. And he also made the same fate. He couldn't relate what he had seen on the other side. He also jumped. The third person, the only person left out of these three, he got up. He was also ecstatic. He also felt like jumping to the other side, not to remain in this side of his existence, to jump. But then the second thought came, that if I jump, who is there? None is there to relate this world of bliss on the other side of the wall. So he had no other intention, just to make the people know about this other side of existence. He came down. This coming down is called avatarana. Avatara is the one who comes down. In a way, all these Nitya Siddhas, they come with the avatara. They are also avatara to a certain extent, because they are also coming from the state of ever perfect domain of existence, of spirituality, just to help out the humankind, to let them know that there is another dimension of existence, where if you can once relate to that dimension of existence, this world of dualities simply falls off. It no more affects you. It goes beyond that. So that's the thing which Sri Ramakrishna is indicating, that they are born they're born perfect. They're like that. He's giving the example of, there's some Shiva Linga which you did not have to install. They are already there. That they just come out from you just dig the ground and suddenly found there is a Shiva Linga there, and you cannot find its base. The more you dig, the more you found it has gone down. So it has as if came out by itself. So he's saying that all these young boys who have gathered around Sri Ramakrishna, these ever perfect ones, they are the one who doesn't have to do sadhana to get established. They are already established in that state. They are the ever perfect ones. The ever perfect form a class by themselves. Not all birds have crooked beaks. The ever perfect are never attached to the world. There is the instance of Prahlada. So Sri Ramakrishna is giving the example of Prahlada. That most of the birds, the beaks will be crooked. Only very few birds are there who has a very straight pointed beak. So they are the exception. To give us an idea of this exception, Sri Ramakrishna is giving the analogy of those birds with the pointed beak. So these few ever perfect souls are like those birds whose beaks are not wicked or not crooked. They are the exceptional ones. They are the exceptional ones, and he is giving the example of Prahlada, Bhakta Prahlada, born in the family of Rakshasa, of the demon. His father is the Hiranyakashipu. He is constantly trying to teach his son in the demonic way of life. But we find nothing is of avail. He is already filled with that good sanskara. And that constantly is forcing him to chant the name of God. That is something nature. He is helpless. However, he will be forced, the good samskaras, somehow which is saturating his mind. That's finds expression through his life. Nothing can suppress that. In the Prahlada's life, we find that however his father was trying to torment him, was punishing him, nothing actually deterred Prahlada from contemplating on the divine, thinking of God, thinking of Hari. Because his mind was already full with that ekagra vritti, ishta vritti. He is a devotee from birth. There's a very nice definition of devotion in Narada Bhakti Sutra, which is attributed to Prahlada. That what he's saying, that the love which the ordinary people have for the worldly things, O Lord, may I have that love for you. Just turning that, it is a question of channelizing your emotions in some subtle direction. That's the beauty of devotion. The devotion never speaks of forcefully going beyond our impulses. It never asks. It says just channelize it. More firiyeda, in the words of Sri Ramakrishna. Change its direction. That you will find in India. Previously they used to think of building dams. that the river in the rainy season will be flooding the land, so they used to build dams. But they have understood that dam is not a good policy, because you know that when the water, if the rain is it's a torrential rain. After a certain limit, the dam is not sufficient. The water has to be released. The lock gates has to be opened. Otherwise, the dam will break. The dam will just simply fracture. So the water has to be released, and again it floods the land. So what's the way out? So in the modern days, they never think of building dams. So what they do? They will channelize. In India, from the Ganges, you will find a lot of channels has went to the arid lands, dry lands of Rajasthan. That when there is torrential rain, when there is a tremendous flow of water, these waters are channelized to the arid, the deserts of Rajasthan. So they get fertile. So that's the idea of changing the direction. That we have emotions, we have all those a love for the worldly objects. Don't try to curb it. It's not possible. Just change its direction. Sublimate it. Even nowadays, you will find that for the drug addict, when they go for rehabilitation, what they do? They never stop this intake of drug from the very first day. They will gradually reduce. That's one thing. Gradually they are reducing. And second, they will try to find out if he has any hobby, gardening or some craft, and try to divert his attention towards all those positive engagements. So the more the mind dwells in them, automatically the mind falls off from the negativity. The biggest, the paradox in trying to control ourselves is the thing which you go on dwelling. I have to control myself, I have to stop. Suppose someone has developed the habit of smoking, and is constantly taking the resolution, I have to stop smoking, I have to stop. He can never stop. Because constantly he is thinking of smoking itself. I have to stop what? Smoking, the thing which attracts me. I am dwelling in the name of, so that they say that hatred is a negative attraction. The thing which you hate, you think of it more intensely than the thing you love. You will find that in the intensity with which you loved your loved ones, the intensity with which you hate your enemy is much more. So hatred is not the opposite of love. Opposite of love is indifference. I don't think of it at all. But how is it possible? Because the mind has to be engaged in something. So if it is always engaged in the things, in the negativities, even with your resolution that I have to get rid of it, you are actually dwelling on them. The best way is to think of something positive, something sublime. Then this naturally falls off. And that's what the life of Prahlad we find. It's full of devotion from the very birth. He is full of love for the divine. And that has enabled him to be the ever perfect. Nothing can ever lure him, distract him, because his mind is always dwelling in the sublime world of the divine. And that's the example which Sri Ramakrishna is giving. The ever perfect are never attached to the world. There's the instance of Prahlada. Ordinary people practice spiritual discipline and cultivate devotion to God, but they also become attached to the world and are caught in the glamour of woman and gold. They are like flies which sit on a flower or a sweetmeat and light on filth as well. So this is the thing. Again and again in the gospel we find this reference comes of this woman and gold, woman and gold. And many think that why this exaggeration so much? But in this world, after all, is any attachment which is apart from this? You will find, you open the newspaper, you go to any news channel, any crime, any scandal, can you just define any scandal which is beyond this lust and gold? Nothing. What has happened actually? That's the trick of the mind. What's the trick of the mind? The neuroplasticity. What it does? That what I do out of necessity again and again, when I do it again and again, a path is formed in my mind. Nothing is deleted in the mind. a path is formed. The moment the path is formed, the mind gets wired. Now it forgets about the necessity. Just to do it becomes its obsession, a tremendous liking. All our obsessions have developed that way. This lust and gold. Can you think of the existence without lust? Impossible. That's the thing, that's the necessity. Can I think of my existence without gold, without wealth? Impossible. They are necessity, they are required for my sustenance, for the sustenance of nature in the form of progeny. That's how the nature continues. They're the necessity. But what has happened? Because from the single cellular bacteria to human, this is the common thing. It is a necessity. That lust and the wealth. For us it's wealth, for others the food. That after all with the wealth we get food. So these are the necessity. As we have resorted to it through the entire process of evolution, again and again and again and again, it has created tremendous deep groove in the mind. And once it has been created, you forget the necessity. It becomes an obsession. So in our life, that has happened. That how we got bound, that the mind has tricked us by making us forget the necessity, by converting it into our obsessions. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna again said, that's the cause of the bondage. Now when I am trying to develop devotion, what I am doing? I am using the same limitation of the mind in such a way that it helps me to come out of the bondage. The same neuroplasticity I use. How? That think of the divine. The Guru has given you a mantra and you go on repeating it, constantly thinking of the divine. Now what I am resorting to, neuroplasticity. Most probably at the beginning I don't like it, but I do it as I have been instructed. I use my willpower, resolution to do it again and again. So it is Vaidhi Bhakti. I am doing it consciously with resolution. Now it takes time. When I am doing repeatedly, I am trying to create a new path. But as long as this new path is not formed, what happens? The mind again and again goes back to the old way of living. So that's why we find that he is like an ordinary fly. Sri Ramakrishna's examples are wonderful. They say a novice who is yet to get established in the spirituality, he is like an ordinary fly. Now and then he is sitting in the nectar, in the sweetmeat, and the next moment he will be sitting in the filth. The more you evolve spiritually, you become like a bee, a honey bee. It always sits in the honey. It never sits in the filth. So, to become the bee, to transform yourself from fly to bee, that's the spiritual evolution. So at the beginning, as my mind still has not been cleansed, the old samskaras are there which is disturbing me. So though I try consciously to keep my mind in the divine, it goes back to the old ways of life. Then what's the way out? If the old samskaras are so powerful that it doesn't allow me to keep my mind in this pure state, then is all the attempt futile? No. So that's the thing. That though I fell again and again, that I try to keep my mind in the sublime thought, I fell. The distractions come and again I go back to my old way of living. The scripture is saying, don't get disheartened. Again, try again. Why? Yes, we fail, but when we again try, how it helps. That yes, my subconscious mind is full of so many worldly thoughts, but how have they entered there? That once, long back, maybe lives before, as I was evolving through this process of evolution, what happened? I was consciously doing all those things. That time most probably the path hasn't been formed in my mind. I was doing consciously. Out of necessity, I was doing consciously. So What's the clue? What I do consciously today, in time, that becomes samskara. By repeatedly doing, it becomes a samskara. So this thing, now all these samskaras of distraction, sarvarthata, in Sanskrit they call sarvartha, is distractions. So many varied arthas, varied purposes. That's what saturates my subconscious mind. So my attempt to keep my mind focused in Ishtavritti, in God, is an utter failure. Whenever I try, this subconscious mind, with all its distraction, throws out my concentration on my Ishta. I fail. But the scripture is saying, try again. How it helps? He's saying, don't forget that all the thing which is saturating your subconscious mind at some point of time has entered your mind consciously, and gradually it has saturated the subconscious mind. So though you fell, again and again try consciously, this will be saturating your subconscious mind. And the more it saturates, this ekagravritti, this one-pointedness, the sarvarthata will be washed away. It takes time, but it has to go on. You have to do it. And that example which we give again and again, that our mind is like a cup which is full of turgid contents, impurities, liquid full of impurities. And now what I do, it is full to the brim. Now what I do, I start pouring pure water into that cup. As it is full, it is full to the brim, it starts spilling off. As it starts spilling off, all the impurities are also reducing. It is getting diluted. It is falling off. And the pure water is entering the cup. A time comes when all the impure water has spilled off and the cup is full of pure water. Till it happens, this struggle is going on. It is full, that turgidity is. When we start our spiritual journey, sometimes we find that our condition is even more bad than we were previously. Why? Because this removal of the turgidity, this purging process is going on. You are cleansing your mind, this purging is going on. Previously you were quite happy with your way of life, but now you have become aware of all those negativities. That is disturbing you. So it is not that you are becoming more impure. What has happened, you have become more sensitive. Actually, you are in the process of purification. But you feel that my condition is horrible. My mind has become as if still more impure. It actually speaks of your sensitivity. The scripture gives a very nice example. Suppose a sand particle falls on your skin. You are not aware of it. And the same sand particle, when falls on your eyeball, and immediately it starts irritating. What it says? That the external factor, the sand particle, it is the same on the skin, again on the eye. But as the eyeball is sensitive, it irritates me when it falls on the eye. Nothing I feel when it falls on the skin. In this world, most of the people who are quite happy with the worldly way of living is as insensitive as that skin. A spiritual person who has started his journey, he has become as sensitive as that eyeball. So that's the sign of purity. What is purity is not innocence. A small child is innocent. But I know as he grows, when he attains the puberty, all the tendencies start find manifestation. So a child is innocent, not pure. What is purity? Through the experiences of life, you have developed the maturity, not to do the same mistakes again and again. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that what's our condition is just like a camel. A camel thrives on thorny bushes. It bleeds. When it is eating the thorny bushes, it bleeds. But it will still go on eating the thorny bushes. Our condition is like that. The worldly wave of life makes us bleed. It makes us suffer. But we go on doing the same thing. We never learn. To learn from the experiences. As Swami Sharadananda used to say, when someone asked him, what is life? In one sentence he gave that answer. That is a chain of experiences. What a wonderful answer. Life is nothing but a chain of experiences. One experience after another, coming and going. When as the more we grow older, we find that nothing happened as per my plan. Man proposes, God disposes. Life takes its own course. And when it is taking its own course, you are going from experience to experience. So many experiences. So it is a chain of experiences. And that person then immediately asked, Sir, you have said very nicely that life is a chain of experience. But what's the aim of life? Just to go on with this chain of experiences? Immediately Shardananda gave a nice answer. To learn from those experiences. The more we can do that, the more we become aware. In English there is a nice proverb. The price of purity is vigilance. I become more vigilant. The way of life which I am leading, that is giving me suffering, so I have to change my way of life and I have to be vigilant. Because the mind has a tendency to force me to the old way of life. Because I have pampered it so much. Our mind is like what? That suppose I feed the birds in the morning. So many birds come, I feed them with grains. And one day I decide I won't feed them. I won't feed them anymore. Would they stop coming? They will still come with the expectation that you will feed them. And that's the taste of your patience. I have to ignore them for days together till they get the feedback that we are not going to be fed anymore, and then they stop coming. So that's the process of purification. That's the struggle with Sri Ramakrishna speaking of the ordinary soul. Those who are ever perfect, they come with that ekagra vritti alone. Their mind is full of that good samskaras. For others, we have to go through this process of purging. That struggle has to be there. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. But the ever perfect are like bees. He's after saying that the flies which sit on a flower or a sweetmeat and light on the filth as well. So it sits sometimes in the sweet, sometimes in the filth. But the ever perfect ones, they are like bees which light only on flowers and sip the honey. The ever perfect drink only the nectar of divine bliss. They are never inclined to worldly pleasures. The devotion of the ever perfect is not like the ordinary devotion that one acquires as a result of strenuous spiritual discipline. It's a wonderful thing that the greatness of Sri Ramakrishna will realize that he is dealing with some teenagers. These young ones, they have got drawn by his love and they are coming to him regularly, and about them he is saying that they are ever perfect. And their life shows that each of them were a spiritual giant in their own right. That what a tremendous capacity Sri Ramakrishna had to really look inside the psyche of a being. He could as if scan the person. Just think that so many of them, 15, 16, the 16 direct disciples, they are coming to Sri Ramakrishna. He has as if chosen them. Many others used to come, but he, the one who is in his inner circle, that's the age, the tender age. Is it possible for any ordinary human being to just look at a youngster and say that he is an ever perfect? We don't know what the course of life is going to lead him to, what all pitfalls he may fall into. But Sri Ramakrishna had that capacity to scan the inner being of a person. He knew that these are the ever perfect ones. And that's the thing, that's the beauty we see. Each of them, they renounced their hearth and home, becomes sannyasis, the first generation of the Ramakrishna order, and their life was inspirational. The tremendous renunciation, devotion which we see in them is really exemplary. That how it was possible for Sri Ramakrishna to look at these small teenagers, this tender age person, and say that they were perfect. Doesn't it really speak of that the tremendous greatness? And it is not only one or two. This is this wonderful thing. When he saw Naren, he used to say that Naren is very powerful. What is to say that in those days, Keshav Chandra Sen was a very famous person. The Keshav Sen was very famous in those days. That throughout Bengal we find that everywhere, as a leader of the Brahmo Samaj, why to speak of Bengal? He went and had dinner with the Queen Victoria of UK. He was such a respected person. In India, throughout India, he was a known figure. He was known for his oratory, the leader of Brahmo Samaj. And one day, Sri Ramakrishna is comparing him with Naren. What he's saying? If Keshav has one power, Naren has such 18 equivalent powers. Hearing that, Naren himself felt embarrassed. That he loves me, I know, that master loves me. But what others will think? He's exaggerating. So he himself told that please don't speak such in front of others. What others will think? You are comparing just me as college boy, an insignificant college boy, with Keshav. And master told, what can I do? I am helpless. The mother is showing me. Has shown me that you are that powerful. That great upheaval, spiritual upheaval is to unfold through your life. And we find that's the thing. That's why this Naren, who as a young boy was not sure what Ramakrishna was. He told he's a love personified. I don't know who he is. He's yellow. He's full of love. That I understand. He has an unconditional love for us. But this same Naren, we find in his last days, he was not at all hesitant to say that he's an avatar. Because through his own life he saw that what he told, even he himself never knew. And that has unveiled, that has actually manifested. He could as if dive deep into the psyche of a person and look at it. So that's the thing he's doing here. So seeing this young one, he's seeing, and you will find that not a single of his speculations went wrong. Because it were not speculation. They were seeing. The mother has shown him, it was seeing, and he was saying, and that's the thing. This devotion of the ever perfect. They are the all ever perfect. This is not like ordinary devotion that one acquires as a result of strenuous discipline. Ritualistic devotion consists in repeating the name of God and performing worship in a prescribed manner. It is like crossing a field in a roundabout way along the bulk. Again, it is like reaching a nearby village by boat in a roundabout way along the winding river. For most of us, as in our mind, that though we have developed some good tendencies, the bad tendencies are still there. And if they get favorable circumstances, they will sprout. So we have a limitation. We have to go by certain ways. So have to avoid something, we have to resort to something. So it's like the river, which has so many bends. So it's never straight. But when flood is there, now when I have to go to a place by rowing a boat through the river, I have to follow the river's bends, the river's curve. There is no other way. But when there is a flood, the river has flooded. The water has crossed the banks. Now if I have to go from one place to other, is there any need to follow the curves of the river? No, I can go straight. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. That this ever perfect one, their devotion is something which is overwhelming. Overwhelming. It has flooded their personality. And for them, they did not have to avoid anything because the bad samskaras are not there. It is the samskaras which sprouts up when it gets favorable circumstances. So many things are hidden in my psyche. But when they get favorable, suppose I like donut. And when I'm busy throughout the day with my work, I never even think of donut. But suddenly someone brings a packet of donut and opens it in front of me. Immediately that urge for having the donut, will it not develop as I have a liking for it? So that's what happens with our life. There are so many things hidden in our psyche. They are there, ready to pounce upon us like a tiger. The tiger always hides itself to pounce on its prey. So similarly, all these mental modules like tigers are waiting to pounce on us. But for this ever perfect, their mind has already been cleansed. They are not there. So why they have to follow these do's and don'ts? Nothing. So they are like that flooded river where they can just row straight. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. One does not follow the injunction of ceremonial worship when one develops raga bhakti, when one's love of God, when one loves God as one's own, then it is like crossing a rice field after the harvest. You don't have to walk along the balk. You can go straight across the field in any direction. When the country is flooded deep with water, one doesn't have to follow the winding river. Then the fields are deep underwater. You can row your boat straight to the village. So with this, we stop our discussion today. A little more portion, just a few more paragraphs remaining. So we will most probably start the next chapter in the next class after just discussing these few more paragraphs which Sri Ramakrishna is discussing with the Brahmo devotees. That we will take up again in the next class. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskars.